All right, so we're at the NLP sort of after party. I'm hanging out with David Hagar, and David's telling me about a product that he's working on in Houston. Is that right?
Dallas.
In Dallas. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about the name of the product and what it does?
Right. So the product is called Discovery, and it's a tool for the legal industry to go through vast quantities of documents that are part of the legal review process.
Yeah.
Right. So you get a lawsuit. Somebody gets piled with sort of millions and millions of documents, and it's actually a litigation technique. They they flood people with so many documents they don't know what to do with it. And we give them the tools to automatically organize it with sort of unsupervised learning techniques. So you don't have to do any setup at all. You plug it in, and you get a picture of your data.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And it uses sort of hierarchical k-means clustering to organize it all, and then allows somebody to sort of look for the things that are meaningful to them as part of the investigative process, and sort of highlight where those things are in the organization that the system has produced. And just that one piece solves sort of it's sort of like a no-brainer for a lot of these folks as a starting point for their sort of figuring out how to process their case and sort of find evidence.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. So this probably just speeds things up, and then they probably saves a lot of money, like not having to try to.
It saves incredible amounts of money. So if they can't make sense of this, they actually have to hire a person to flip through these documents one at a time.
Wow.
And 75% of the cost of a case is reviewing documents.
Wow.
Right. So if you can reduce the review load by say 70%. Right, you could pay for the cost of the software like 10 times over. Right. So it, a lot of companies are recognizing the value of this. I mean, we do deals with like some of the legal departments of KPMG and Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, like these really giant companies that deal with these large document volumes and have the sort of the staff to be sophisticated enough to use these tools.
Right.
And they're loving it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and you were showing a demo here, and I don't know if we'll be able to catch a screenshot.
Yeah, this is just a screenshot.
Okay, and so and I can share this online as well.
Yeah, so this is an example of the picture that we make of somebody's data set.
Okay.
This is actually a picture of Enron, right? And like here's all of the art stuff, here's all the stuff that's school and education, there's software, aircraft, military, athletic kind of stuff, so like football and all that kind of stuff. And there was no setup to do this, right? We took Wikipedia and just dumped it in there, and it made this picture. It figured out that there's something called sort of athletics, and it sort of put it all together. There's some things like film and music, right? And put all that together, right? And if you have a legal case and you know nothing about the company and what they're doing, this picture is just like gold, right? And it not only predicts the sort of high-level picture, but you can drill down into sort of smaller and smaller and smaller pictures, all the way down into little collections of maybe 100 documents. Right? And you can sit there an hour. Like Wikipedia is like millions and millions of documents, and it organizes them all down to a certain level.
And so this is the Enron case that we're looking at here?
So I've got two of these.
Oh, I see. Yeah. This is the Enron.
This is Enron.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know how big the Enron docs were, but I imagine
it's about 500,000.
Okay, yeah. So, to be able to chop it up into little clusters like this, it's pretty incredible. And the fact that it does it without having to be trained, I mean...
That's correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of our competitors' products, you have to go in and... so ridiculous, there's a really problem with email, where somebody will put a signature at the bottom of their email, and so the clustering and the machine learning will start to learn off of that email signature. And we've put in a lot of stuff that will automatically recognize those email signatures and take them out. Sort of do the data cleaning without any manual steps.
Okay.
So that you don't have to give the system any prior information. Use sort of standard sets of stop words. We've got stop words for many different languages, right? So Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, most of the primary languages.
Right.
And then of course English.
Yeah.
And it deals with them all.
Okay.
Right? And I've only talked about one of the technologies that we do. We've actually got three sort of pieces of technology. This is the one that people use the most.
Yeah.
The second one that they use the most is something called concept search, where we, you may have heard of like word2vec and these sort of vector language models. So we use latent semantic analysis to produce those language models, but then we integrate it with our search system, right? So we do concept expansion on somebody's search. And when you're going through the investigative process, a lot of times you don't know the words that are used or the acronyms or inside of a company.
Yeah.
And so that process of sort of putting something in that you're interested in and then walking through all the synonyms that get generated will tell you about companies. It'll tell you about stock ticker symbols and things like that are related to those companies, like people's names, and then just stuff that's way out of left field, like what is that?
Yeah.
And then you go down the sort of investigative process, like, oh, okay, now I understand that's why that's connected to this.
Yeah.
And that investigative process sort of blows the doors off of sitting there flipping through documents.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, and having to have a certain level of street smarts or industry smarts to be able to comprehend what they're saying, computers can get off.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then the third thing is just text classification.
Okay.
And in the legal industry, they call it predictive coding. And there's a whole kind of sort of, when you've got so many documents that it becomes cost prohibitive to review things one at a time, there's all kinds of, you go through the classification process, but then you have to prove that the accuracy level that the court requires, right? And you have to be able to tell the story to a sort of legal audience, of all this sort of natural language sort of classification stuff is sort of like, why is this right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very fascinating. Let me ask, if people want to look at some examples or see some white papers or what have you, where would they go for that?
So they go to brainspace.com.
Okay.
And we've got sort of a walkthrough of the discovery product and an explanation of all the pieces. We've got a couple of videos, I think, that are in there. And of course, we've got a wonderful sort of sales team that you can send an email and they'll do a demo. And we're in high gear to get this product out there.
Yeah, and it sounds like a worthy investment. So brainspace.com to find out more information about this set of artificially intelligent sort of tool set for the legal industry. It's going to really save time and money and effort. And Dave, thanks for telling us about it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.